Ted Cruz was recently bragging about how much money he raised on the campaign trail, and it's true. He's raised the second most among the Republicans. Jeb Bush is number one, but Ted Cruz, of all people, unexpectedly number two. He raised $38 million already, and we're barely getting started. Geez, and Lord mercy. Now, he must have wide support in order to raise $38 million. So let's take a look at who he raised that money from. CNN tells us that $15 million came from the Wilks brothers, Farris and Dan Wilks, who made their fortune in Texas, where Ted Cruz is from, doing fracking. And then another $11 million came in from Robert Mercer, who's a hedge fund manager out of New York. And then finally, another $10 million came from another incredibly wealthy gentleman from Texas, Toby Neugebauer. Okay. I did the quick math on that. That's 36 out of the $38 million. We'll be generous, count the brothers as two people, okay, which they literally are. So from four people, he raised 36 out of the 38 million dollars that he raised. See, this is what we're talking about. You think Ted Cruz is going to represent the people? No, he's going to represent those four guys. They make up an overwhelming majority of the money that he receives that keeps him in this race. That's what's going to allow him to set up campaign headquarters, run attack ads against his opponents. That's what puts him in the race. He serves them. He doesn't serve you. You think you're going to call Ted Cruz if he's president of the United States or send him an email or a letter and he's going to take you as seriously as he's going to take Toby Neugebauer? The minute Toby calls, he's like, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. What do you need, sir? You think they're giving the $10 million or the $15 million out of the goodness of their heart for charity? These are businessmen. One's a hedge fund manager. The other guys got rich and brag about it. The Wilks brothers made $3.5 billion out of their fracking business that they sold recently. You think that they don't look for a return on investment? How could anyone be that naive? No. They give the money. They expect something in return. So let's try to figure out what they're expecting in return. By the way, can you imagine all the television? You turn on CNN and stuff. Oh, give credit to CNN. They broke this story. God bless their hearts. But 9 out of 10 times, what does Ted Cruz think? Ted Cruz doesn't think anything. He thinks, how can I please my donors? He doesn't have policy positions. He doesn't have ideas or ideology. He's not in a real debate, whether it's with Mitch McConnell or Harry Reid. He's just figuring out, how do I serve the Neugebauer? So now let's go to the Wilks. They're his biggest donors. Oh, actually, before we do, I want you to understand that this is not about Ted Cruz. It's about the system. If you allow for millionaires to buy politicians, of course they're going to buy politicians. Any reasonable person, you can kill off your competition? You can get an unfair competitive advantage. It's called crony capitalism. So they're all doing it. Norman Brahman is a Florida auto dealer, and he will reportedly give up to $10 million to Marco Rubio's campaign. Several Jeb Bush supporters are expected to have given $1 million to his campaign and to be eager to give more. I wonder why they're so eager to give money. All right, now let's go back to the Wilks brothers. Let's go to Farris Wilks. He's actually a pastor in his church. Wait till you get a load of his church. He says, our country was founded on the idea that our rights come from the Creator, not the government. I'm afraid we're losing that. Okay, that's just not true. That's not what our country was based on. In fact, it was the first secular country in the history of the world that said we do not belong to any religion. They put it in the Constitution. They were pretty clear about that. But obviously, this guy doesn't like that. He would like our country to be ruled by his God. And now he has enormous influence over somebody who could be president of the United States. So let's find out what it is that he cares about. Well, through their $100 million family philanthropy, the 13 Foundation, the brothers, these are the brothers Wilk, gave nearly $19 million as part of their tithing to religious and conservative nonprofit groups like the Family Research Council and Online for Life in 2013, according to the most recent tax filings. Now, I'm still naive enough that halfway through that sentence when I was first reading it, I thought like, oh, well, good for them. At least they do tithing and are going to give to the poor. I might disagree with them politically. It turns out, no, they're not giving to the poor. They're giving to the Family Research Council, which then goes and runs campaigns against gay people. Oh, wow, how generous of you. You know how they always say, oh, no, the government doesn't have to give any money to the poor or the needy. You let the churches and the holy people handle that. And what do? Do they give money to the poor? No, they turn around and give it to other people to hate other people. Oh, great. So what is their particular brand of religion that they think we should all bow down to? Well, this is interesting. The Wilks brothers, as CNN explains, at the heart of their life still is the assembly of Yahweh. which preaches a mix of Christianity and Judaism and holds the Bible as infallible. I don't get it. Ted Cruz doesn't have a beard. I'm pretty sure if you checked his clothes, they'd be of two different fabrics. Guys are walking abomination. Well, you said infallible. You said the Bible is infallible. That's in the Bible. This church of the Assembly of Yahweh believes that every word in the Bible is infallible. Last I checked, the Old Testament's in the Bible, okay? Genesis is part of the Old Testament. Noah's Ark is in the Old Testament. All these things that you love and cherish are in the Old Testament. Hating gay people also in the Old Testament, but so is don't eat shrimp. Hey, Wilks brothers, do you guys ever go to Red Lobster? I hope not. Did you make sure that your wives were virgins before you married them? Because if they're not virgins, you're going to have to take them to their dad's house and stone them to death. I mean, I didn't say, you're saying that the Bible is infallible. Every word is infallible. These guys are the puppet masters. If Ted Cruz wins, the first call he makes is to the Wilks brothers. They're his top donors. You think they don't want anything in return? No, but they say they do want something in return. They want their religion propagated and other things. So let's go to the second Wilks brother, Dan Wilks. He says, quote, "We need a true leader in Washington, a leader that will stand up for biblical morals. We need a leader who is proud of America, not one who apologizes for us. We need a leader who encourages hard work, not one who tells people who don't work that they should make the same living as people who do. We need a leader who will make sure America doesn't end up a socialist nation." A socialist like perhaps Jesus Christ, who said, give away all of your worldly possessions. Wait, I thought you said every word in the Bible was true. That's in the New Testament. Jesus said it. Give up all of your worldly possessions and give it to the needy. Oh, that part you're not taking literally. Interesting, right? So yes, part of it is get Yahweh into the White House. Isn't this unbelievable that we have a system that allows for legal bribes? The guy who bribes the winning candidate the most wins. Wolf-pack.com. If you don't get money out of politics, these lunatics are going to take over the asylum. Okay, wolf-pack.com. We're going to fight back against this. Get money out of politics. Now, the second thing that they're interested in, obviously, is cut my taxes. I'm sitting on $3.5 billion. I don't want to, eventually, when they pass away, they don't want to pay estate tax. They want their family to get it. Their family didn't earn that money. They earned it. Give them their due, okay? But they don't want their family to pay any taxes anyway, okay? Paris Hilton doesn't want to pay any taxes for Conrad Hilton's hard work. That's what the estate tax is. And then, oh my God, I'm investing the money. I'm making hundreds of millions of dollars every year investing that money. Oh, I don't want to pay 39%. I want to pay 15% or maybe even less. I want to pay less than the average American does. Gimme, 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 gimme. The $15 million could easily get them $150 million the first year of a Cruz presidency if he cuts their taxes. Easily. They're looking for return on investment. Finally, these guys, they say they're going to get into the internet. Really? They say the pair are said to have particular desire to fund breakthroughs in social media and digital organizing, eyeing long-term opportunities to mobilize Christian voters on emerging or created from scratch platforms online. Come and get it. Come and get it, okay? You want to come online? You want to spend a ton of money trying to get people to believe what you believe? You think the Assembly of Yahweh is going to work online? Please waste your money on that. That'll be awesome. Okay. Yeah, maybe you guys will have a show bigger than us. Good luck with that. Hey, you know what? Spend your whole $3.5 billion on that. You got to get us off the air, man. You got to knock us down. We're number one right now. You should be number one. Pour as much money as you got into that. I bet it'll work. Stop giving to Ted Cruz. Stop giving to Republican politicians. Make sure you defeat us instead. Look at how disrespectful I am of you. Come on, come on. Come this way. Come this way. Fight us instead. Under no circumstances should any of these guys be allowed to control whoever becomes the president of the United States, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. We can't have a system where they work for the donors. Wolf-pack.com. Get the money out of politics.